Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 250, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, and I have a Fiber Nymph account on Instagram, which is my personal account, and then there is my Fiber Nymph Dyeworks account on Instagram, which is more focused on my yarn business, the dyeing, the specials, the coupons, the promotions, special projects, things like that. You are more than welcome to follow either one of those. My personal account, though, I do have to actually approve it just because I post some, more personal family kind of things there as well as my knitting and spinning and all that good stuff. There is a 90% knitting group on Ravelry, which is where I always post the show notes for the podcast episodes under the episode thread. There's also a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks group on Ravelry, which has, again, things more related to my business. And there is a Fiber Nymph Dyeworks page on Facebook, which is a wonderful place to follow along and get the highlights of anything going on, either for Fiber Nymph Dyeworks or for the podcast. So lots of places to find me and things about the podcast and my business all around the internet. How are you today? I hope you're having a wonderful week since I talked to you last. We are having some lovely mild temperatures for the end of July. This is unheard of often. It was 59 degrees this morning when I got up, which you don't get too often here in the Pittsburgh area at this time of year. But I'll take it because it feels really good, and I was able to turn my window air conditioners off the last couple of days, so that's always a good thing. I would like to welcome Pamela, who is actually from Pennsylvania and not too far away from me. She's actually probably closer to me up at the mountain house than right here, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's like we're neighbors. So Pamela, hello. Thank you for introducing yourself in the welcome thread on the 90% Knitting group. And if any of you would like to do the same thing, I'd be happy to say hello and give you a shout out on the podcast as well. But whether you do that or not, I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. I've got some finished objects to show you. Actually, I have one finished object and then I have one half finished object, but they're all socks. And look, I've got two sock blockers today. Isn't that exciting? They've been MIA for so long. I did my show last weekend and they were in with all my show stuff, so I've managed to snag them back for personal use. Okay. I know, I could have done this ahead of time, but I didn't. The first socks I'm going to show you, sorry, that's so attractive, seeing me hold something underneath my chin so you get the whole double chin thing going there. It's awesome. Anyway, these first socks I'm going to show you have been on my needles for quite some time, almost a year exactly, because I started them at the beginning of August last year. But these are my Pixel Rise socks, which I was calling my Pixel Fall socks because I work them cuff down instead of toe up the way the pattern's written. The pattern is from Kemper Ray. Kemper has the Junk Yarns podcast, although she doesn't really podcast too much anymore, but she's the dyer behind Junk Yarns as well. The pattern is hers. None of the yarns are hers. But first, I want you to see, like normally when I put socks on sock blank, why am I calling these sock blanks? They're sock blockers. They only come to about here. Do you see how tall these socks are? These are crazy tall. I'm so excited about these socks. This pattern was so much fun to do. It's this lovely little pixely colorwork pattern. Mine mostly matches. Again, I think did I show you these last week? No, they weren't finished last week. I still had the heels to do. That was what it was. I had the tubes done, but I hadn't put my afterthought heels in. So they are in. I used this turquoise green color for the heels. The yarn that I used on these, all of these bright colors, these 5 colors here, these were from my Knitty in Color acoustic sock mini set that I had. I used this same set to do the Lefty Shawlette a year or so ago. Had lots of yarn left over, so it was plenty to do. These socks, I chose not to do the color work the whole length of the sock. So the bright pink that we've got here, this fuchsia, that is actually my yarn. This is my bounce base, and it's the fuchsia colorway. These are eye-searingly bright. But they are going to be so much fun to wear this winter. They are tall. The cuffs are about 9 inches high, which is probably the highest I have ever made a pair of socks. I was a little concerned since this is color work, and my tension isn't fabulous with color work. And I've never actually done color work cuffs, especially this high, before. So I was a little concerned about, were they going to get over my heel okay, you know, to get on my foot, and they're fine, and they're not too tight up at the top either. So everything worked out really well. So a finished set of socks, and these being as large as they were, I didn't write it down, but let me tell you how many yards I ended up using. Where are they? I'm looking at my my spreadsheet, my Stash Dash spreadsheet. Oh my goodness. Oh, here they are. Okay, I ended up using 376 yards for this pair of socks, which is 344 meters. I never use 376 yards for a pair of socks. I rarely use over 300 yards for a pair of socks. So that is just very impressive, and I am very excited to have had all of that meterage to count for Stash Dash, frankly. Oh my gosh, I started mentioning my spreadsheet. I've got a spreadsheet. It's now color-coded. Like, it's crazy. I should like screenshot it and put a picture of it in or something sometime, because it's just so funny. I'm just going a little too hardcore on Stash Dash this year. I don't know why. It's keeping me amused. But anyway, so the Pixel Rise socks are finished. My other sort of finished object, now where did it go? Okay, I just had it here. Is it in? Oh, maybe I put it in the bag. Oh, here it is. Is a hoe, actually. I had a show last weekend. I know, here we go again. I had a show last weekend, and what I've been doing my past few shows is I've been working on a sock blanks, knitting a sock from a sock blank during the show, because what I have found is that there are a lot of people who come to yarn shows that don't have a clue what sock block, or now I'm calling them sock blockers when I'm talking about sock blanks. Wow. They don't know what sock blanks are. So many people come into my booth and see the sock blanks hanging there, and they're like, oh, what lovely scarves. And it's like, no. And so after the first time that happened, I realized that what I needed to be doing was working on knitting something from a sock blank. And so that is what I've done the last few shows, and it's been a wonderful thing to do. It's great because I get to demonstrate it pretty much as soon as somebody walks up to my sock blank, you know, display, that part of the display. I go over and I say, oh, are you familiar with sock blanks? And 9 times out of 10 they say no, and so then I get to explain. So anyway, this is the one that I have been working with the last couple of shows. This was the one that I used for the very beginning part of my Find Your Fade shawl, so I didn't use very much of it at all. This is one of my Happenstance with Sparkle blanks that I hand painted last fall with the fun fall leaves. I can't wait to start doing fall leaf ones again. Ooh, got lots of it there. So anyway, that's what I was working on, and it had already been started, and here it is finished. It was probably about to right here, so it wasn't that far along. But I had a lot of time to knit on it at the show this weekend. And I'm not saying the show was bad, because it wasn't. And I'll talk about the show a little bit later. But it was comfortable enough pace that I could just knit pretty much the whole time, unless I was actually checking someone out or, you know, needing to do something else. So I got all the way down. I did my heel flap, my heel turn, and I started on the gusset decreases while I was at the show. And then once I was this far along, rather than save this sock for my next show, because my next show is not till October, I just decided I was going to finish it, because this gives me a hoe that I can count for Stash Dash, because half-finished objects are allowable in Stash Dash as long as they've been finished during Stash Dash. So there we go. How many times can I say Stash Dash in 30 seconds? A lot, apparently. Anyway, I absolutely love how this sock turned out. I think it's just amazing when you see what the sock blank looks like, and then you see the finished product. I mean, you can obviously see where those colors came from, you know, like there's the leaf, there's a leaf, there's a leaf. But it comes out so different, and it's so much fun to be able to show this to people at a show and explain how this happens, you know, because there is just no way to know looking at this what this is going to end up looking like. But at least if I have something that I can, you know, show them, then they get an idea. And it was just a lot of fun. So I am thrilled to have this sock done. It will remain a hoe for the rest of Stash Dash though. My game plan at this point, because we're down to like the last month of Stash Dash at this point, I think it ends, when does it end? Does it end August 20, I think maybe the 25th. Don't hold me to that. I could be wrong. But that's, you know, a little bit less than a month away now. So I'm really kind of having to buckle down and see where I can get the most out of my knitting. So what my plan is at this point is I am going to work, the only socks I'm going to knit on at this point are ones that are already started. I have several first socks left to go. Let me see, which ones are there? I have my Margarita Swirl socks, which I'm going to show you in a second because I have been working on those. I have my Hoodwinked socks, and I have my Splash Pad Parfait socks. They're all still in first sock phase. So those are what I am going to be working on as far as socks. And I'm just going to work on getting the single sock done so that I have those hose and I can at least count that meterage for Stash Dash. It's all about the meters, folks. So anyway, but that is my my Autumn Leaves sock. That's just a regular, my plain vanilla sock, US 1 needles. The Pixel Rise socks I did on US 1.5s because of the color work and I wanted it to be a little bit more roomy, which worked out well. Okay, so then moving on to my works in progress and my game plan of working on socks that are already underway. Here is my Margarita Swirl sock. And that's the thing. Pretty much all three of these remaining socks were at about the same place of doneness. So I just picked one and started. And I wanted to do this one because I'm really enjoying this colorway. This is my Margarita Swirl colorway on my Bedazzled base. And the last time you saw it, it was right there where that progress marker is. Now, here was my plan for this pair of socks. I was going to give German short row heels a try on this pair of socks. And so I had got to this point, and my yarn that I'm going to use for the heel is this. It's a skein of the radioactive green, toxic green. So that's what my heel is going to be. So over the past few days, I have been watching different videos on short row heels. I think I talked about this a little bit, maybe a podcast or two ago, that I had watched one video, but that one, the technique the woman was showing, showed that you're working the heel, but you're also coming around and working the instep occasionally as well. So I didn't think that would work very well using a contrasting yarn for the heel. So I watched a couple of others, and the one that everybody has told me to watch is by the Knitting Expat, Mina. I can't find a video on YouTube specifically about doing a German short row heel. I'm fairly certain she does incorporate that into some of her patterns, so maybe that's what I'm misunderstanding. Maybe it's in her patterns and she doesn't specifically have a video. But if she does, and you could somebody could like send me a direct link, like included in a comment in the episode thread, I would really appreciate it because I would like to watch her video if there is one. I did end up watching the one by Very Pink Knits, and I watched part of the one on short rows by the Sockmatician. And both of those demonstrated the German short row technique the same as the first one that I watched. The Very Pink Knits one, she did demonstrate how you would do it on a heel, and I understood it, but then I wanted to watch another one, so I started watching the Sockmatician one. I never ended up finishing it because I got impatient. That's just me. There was nothing wrong with the video. I got impatient and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give this heel a try. So I started doing it, and I did the first half of the heel absolutely fine. And then I started going back to where the rows are getting bigger again. And I got the heel done, and it basically was about 1.5 inches deep. And see, that's my experience with short row heels in general, not just the German short row. I've only maybe done, I think, one pair of socks, maybe two, very, very early on in my knitting career that included short row heels before I discovered the slip stitch heel flap heel, which is my all-time favorite. But anyway, my biggest problem with short row heels is they are too narrow. They're just not deep enough. They're a shallow heel. Now that first video I watched, you know, the fact that you were working some extra rounds across the instep here and there, that did give it some added depth, which was the nice part about that. And I think that would be a great technique if you were using maybe a semi-solid yarn or even a variegated yarn. But I didn't want to do that with a striping yarn because I just thought that would be a little too weird, especially since I'm using a contrasting color for my heel. Yeah, it just, I knew I wasn't going to like it. And I also had a couple of little errors in it, just, you know, from being new to the technique. I ripped it out, obviously. So there's negative knitting here. And I'm going to just continue knitting this, and I'm going to put in my afterthought heel like I always do because I like the afterthought heel. I know it fits me, and I can make it deeper than what it looks like this German short row would have ended up being. So unless I'm completely misunderstanding something with this German short row, I mean, there may be a way. I don't know. Maybe there is a way to add some extra rows in there to make it a little deeper. I haven't figured it out. I may have to play with it again. I don't want to completely write it off. I will say I really like the technique of the German short row, though. I could totally see me using that to doing like shaping in a garment, like bust shaping and things like that. It's a very slick technique. But for the heel, I was not pleased with it, and I just didn't want to mess around. Time is of the essence with these socks at this point, so I'm just going to finish knitting this tube, do the toe. I will probably use the contrasting yarn for the toe too. And then I'll put my heel in at the end. And I'll be fine with that. That makes me happy. So again, that's my Margarita Swirl colorway on the bedazzled base. And again, it's just a plain vanilla sock that I do and US 1 needles. All right, so that's all the sock knitting. I did work on my bias garter wrap. I keep changing the name of it. Remember, I showed it to you. I took it out of deep, deep hibernation last week because I realized I was not going to finish that big Afghan that I had been working on for my son. It was just too hot to work on. So I pulled this out, happily realizing that it was further along than I thought it was. It was at 45 inches long on its long edge last week. I said I wanted to get to 64. Well, I measured it this morning, and I'm at 65 inches. So yay. It's quite long, so it's going to make a nice wrap. So I am now at this point where I'm going to start doing all the decreases and finish it off. And I'm sitting there, it was this morning when I realized it's like I could kick myself for letting this hibernate and languish for so very long because it's been so delightful to work on and it's going super fast to finish it up. Honestly, I could have this done by the end of today if I just sat and worked on it. I don't think I have the time to do that, but it will definitely, almost definitely, be finished by the next time I podcast. If you want to know the yarns I'm using 8 different, pretty much natural colored yarns. They're all listed in the project page. I can't really tell you what they are at this point in time, but they are delightful colors. I just love all these neutral, natural shades together. What I am realizing, I mean, the whole intention is to leave this fringe because I'm basically doing 2 garter ridges of each color and then switching to the next. And I'm staying in pattern, although I have goofed that up occasionally. But for the most part, I'm using the same color repeats the whole way down. The only problem is since I'm doing 2 garter ridges, I'm ending up with sort of sparse fringe. It's not nearly as full as it would be if I was cutting the strand after every garter ridge. So I think what I'm going to do once I'm done is I'm going to take my leftover yarn and a crochet hook and just kind of add fringe to it to fill it out because I really want it to be a nice thick fringe. It's not going to be this long. I'm going to trim it down probably to about 2 inches, but I just want it to be, I want it to have some body. I don't want it to just be kind of, oh, it's like you have things hanging there. No, I want it to look intentional. Plus, extra fringe means extra meterage in my finished project, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think that's cheating. I mean, it's part of the project, so. Anyway, it's coming along. I'm really, really happy with it. And yeah, those are rubber bands on the end of my needles just so that I don't lose my stitches at this point, because that's my simple and easy way of point protectors. All right, so I worked on that. And then lastly, the other thing I worked on and have been working on is my granny stripes blanket. Yes. This is huge. I'm just going to kind of hold it up. I'm not going to open it up. I'm going to just hold it up like this so you can see how long it is at this point. It's probably not too much longer than when I showed it to you last time, because I feel like I just showed this to you maybe a few weeks ago. But wow, I love this blanket. Oh my gosh. This makes me really, really happy. And even though it's wool, like, this isn't too bad to work on at this time of year. I mean, I just kind of bunch it up on my lap so it's not like totally covering me. Although there have been a couple chilly mornings where, you know, I've been sitting with Bill while he eats breakfast, and I'll work on it because it feels kind of good. Anyway, let's see if I can open this up and find my little marker. I don't know where my marker is that's showing me. It's probably on the very inside, and I'm not going to open it up, but I would say from about, probably about here on up. Oh wait, here it is. Here's the marker. It's blinking through. From here on up is all yarns that I got from Tommy Trujillo, sorry. Dynamite Trujillo, who does the, what's it called? Squirrel Pie podcast, and has the Moonstone Dye Works Yarn Company. We did a swap. She was one of my swappers earlier this year when I was doing yarn swap with people from the group. And I'm down to, I believe I have one more ball. There's this one that I'm using right now, and then I have one more ball of her yarn that I'm going to use. And then I will be moving on to the next person. And I went over to my bag. I have a big tote bag over there full of all of the yarn I got from the people I swapped with. And I just randomly pulled one out. And so the next bag up is this one, full of cute little mini balls from Molly, who is MLD. Did I write it down? Because I'm really bad at remembering this. MLD235 on Ravelry. So Molly, your yarn's up next. And I got to show you something. And I may have showed this to you back whenever I first got these, when they were coming in. But, you know, everybody pretty much labeled or somehow told me what the yarns were, because that's kind of the fun part of doing a swap. Look at this clever way that she did it. She took a picture of all of her yarn balls, and then on the back wrote down what they all were. I'm totally stealing that idea the next time I do a swap, because that is just beyond clever and so easy to do. So anyway, those will be the next ones up. So I did not tell you my updated stash dash totals here. With the Pixel fall socks and the autumn leaves sock, that brings my stash dash total up to 5,444 meters. So I finally passed the halfway point. I'm not gonna, well, I may add, no, I'm not. I'm gonna hold off and add all of my single socks in at the very end. I'll probably just take one picture with all of them. And that way it'll be easier, you know, just on the off chance I do end up finishing a second sock. I don't want to put it in and then have to fix it. So my meterage on that page, once I update my post, which I haven't in a while, will not be that high, but in reality it is. And in reality it's actually much larger, because if you consider the fact that I've added about 80 grams to my Granny Stripes blanket since Stash Dash started, that's about 293 meters. The way I'm averaging it. So, you know, I've got meterage plus spinning meterage and stuff that isn't added in yet. So there's more. I'm telling myself this as much as anybody else. Speaking of spinning, I did do some spinning. This is just so ridiculous and possibly just illustrates how perverse I can be sometimes. I was a complete fail at Tour de Fleece. I hardly spun at all, as much as I wanted to. Just wasn't happening. Tour de Fleece ended on Sunday. Monday, all I wanted to do was spin. It's crazy. So I did work on the Highland Handmaid's Targhee that I've been working on. I finished spinning the yellow singles, so I was able to ply the rest of the orange that I had with the first bit of yellow. And then I had what was left of the yellow, and then I spun up the green singles. And so I plied the yellow and the green together and inadvertently came up with a John Deere skein of yarn, which is not intentional at all. But I think once these are all put together, I should have grabbed it, but I also have the one that's the red and the orange already plied, but I did that before Stash Dash. So if I finish all of this, I can count all of it as a finished object. But yeah, I just want to spin now. It's silly, but that's life, I guess. Those two little skeins add up to about 200 meters. So again, it's a little bit of extra, you know, meterage. It's working around. All right, so that's everything I worked on this week, of note anyway. What else? Oh, my outdoorsy pattern. No, it's not published yet, but I'm still holding out hope I will have it done by the end of this week sometime. So hang on. But what is the positive thing about that, my daughter was home last weekend, and so I was able to get her to model my samples. So I have good pictures now because I was having issues getting decent pictures for the pattern. And yeah, it just worked out really well that she was home and willing to model, even though it was super hot and I made her put on her fleece jacket. She was wearing a tank top. I'm like, hon, you're wearing a tank top. This is like a cold weather thing. You need to at least pretend it's cold. So I made her sit in front of one of our bushes, our green bushes, with her tank, with her, you know, fuzzy jacket on. She was dying of heat stroke, but she loves me, so she cooperated. So anyway, I have the pictures, so now I just need time to get them into the pattern. Then I can publish it, and then kits will be coming eventually. Honest. All right. The year in the life of a knitter knit-along is still going on. July is almost over. We only have 5 more days left in July. It sounded like the countdown. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So if you are participating, you have 5 more days to get your finished objects in for the July focus, which is, the July challenge, which is the Christmas in July gift knit. All those details are up in that thread. As far as the regular thread for the summer quarter, which is what I'm going to pull the participation prizes from, we have enough chatter going on in there already that we've got at least 5 prizes that I'll be awarding next week. You guys love to chatter, and I am so excited that you are enjoying this knit along. I started off strong this month, like taking part in the conversation, and then I haven't had a chance to check in probably on the last 200 posts or so that have gone up. And I know from past experience that in these last 5 days, that number's probably going to go up by, I would say, probably 100 posts. So we may end up having like 7 prizes or something. That would be a record for this knit along. I will tell you what those prizes are next week when I award them, because I'm not even going to pretend that I have them picked out at this point. I know what some of them are going to be, but I don't have them ready. But as usual, there'll be something fun. So stay tuned next week for that. I will award those prizes. And by next week, okay, wait, I have to get to the correct page now. By next week, we will have, where's my thread? Sorry, I'm not prepared here. It will be August, and so we will be still in the summer quarter, obviously. But August is, I'm just looking it up to make sure I don't tell you something incorrectly. Our August focus will be garter stitch. And I have not yet come up with what the August challenge is going to be, but I will have the thread and the challenge guidelines posted in the 90% Knitting group by August 1st. And I'm going to do my very, very best to make sure that anyone, no matter what craft you're using or doing for the cow, will be able to participate, because I know it's been a few months since that's been the case. So look for that to be coming up in the 90% knitting group between now and August 1st. It'll be there ready for you. And then I'll talk about it next week when I podcast, but it'll at least be there so you'll know what it is and can begin to participate if you'd like. Let's see, I already mentioned Tour de Fleece. It's over. We did have a lovely chatter thread though, even if I was not being very productive during Tour de Fleece. Other people were, and there was some fabulous spinning going on. I loved seeing what you guys shared. And we ended up with, I believe, like 85 posts. Let's see, how many posts were there? Yeah, 85. So the first one was mine. Well, actually, several of them were mine. But basically, I decided to do a participation drawing for that. And I did the random number generator from number 2 through 85. And the random number generator chose post number 69, who was Jen, who is Cthulhu Loves Me. And I love that Ravelry name. That's one of the best ones I've ever seen. Anyway, Jen, congratulations. You have your choice of prize. So you need, when you see this, please PM me on Ravelry and let me know which you would prefer. They're both fiber prizes, obviously. The first choice is this color block gradient in the Winter Garden colorway, and it's 4 ounces of BFL. So there's that one. Or there's this one, which is Polworth Silk, 4 ounces in my Pink Cadillac colorway. So whichever one of those you would like, please PM me, let me know, and I will get that sent off to you. Also send me your full name and mailing address so I can send your prize to you. So thank you. And thanks to everybody who contributed to that thread. That was a really fun thread. And for those of you who really spun your hearts out over Tour de Fleece, congratulations. Good job. Someday, maybe I'll get back to Tour de Fleece again. I'm not sure that I ever have really succeeded, at least in the stance of spinning every single day. I think my very first year that I did Tour de Fleece with my wheel, I did pretty well. Like I met a lot of goals, but I think that's maybe the only year I ever did it, and that was quite a while ago now. All right, so that's pretty much everything for the knitting and the spinning that I can think of. You know, it was funny, I was taking a shower right before I recorded. You're welcome. And I was thinking, oh, I need to add something to my show notes. And do you think hopefully it'll pop into my head before I'm done. I think it was something for the shop news segment though. I don't know. Hopefully it was nothing too important. Let's talk about 10% real quick. My kids, they were home last weekend. Both of my out-of-staters, my North Carolinians were home. My youngest, who is my daughter, Emma, and my oldest, who is my son, Zach, they were home as a surprise. It was supposed to be a surprise for me, but I found out about it. It was a surprise for their brother, who it was totally funny because he was super confused. He saw my daughter's car pull in, but he's not seen her car, so he didn't know it was her car. Then he saw his brother get out of the car, and he knew it was him, but he didn't know who the girl was getting out of the car. He's like, I didn't recognize her. I mean, Emma had a hat on, and her hair's a different color than it was, I guess, the last time he saw her. And she was dressed in like these harem pants and just, I don't know, he was just confounded. He didn't know who it was, so he was a little like, I don't know what's going on. But it was fun, and it was just a really nice weekend. They came up specifically for a surprise party for their grandfather on their dad's side, an 80th birthday party, which I guess that surprise worked out really well because like their dad didn't know that they were coming up. Hardly anybody over on that side knew except for the one uncle who was actually planning the party. So that was very cool that that worked out for them. But what I really enjoyed most was we got to actually spend a good bit of time together. I mean, Emma had her schedule packed pretty much from the moment she got in the door because she wanted to see as many friends as possible. But I got to spend Friday with my oldest son. Got to take him up to the mountain house, so he's been up there. And then he and Bill and I went out to lunch. And then on Sunday, that was my day to spend with my daughter. And so we went out and we went to Chipotle for lunch and we went shopping. Oh my gosh, we have so much fun clothes shopping together, which is so much fun because I've never gotten to do that. Like my mom and I, we would go out to lunch occasionally, but we never like clothes shopped or anything together. Emma and I had a really good time. So I got this top. I got a bunch of tops. But anyway, yeah, we had fun. And then Sunday night, we all went out to dinner. All three of the kids and Bill and I. We went out to dinner, so that was nice. Just a lovely weekend. So this coming week, and this is kind of launching into the shop news segment, but it's sort of half and half. As you guys know, if you've been watching the podcast for any amount of time, you know, I'm kind of in this transition phase between my house here, where I still do my dyeing for my business and everything, and my husband and I stay here a couple nights a week usually, depending on what's going on, and the mountain house, which is what I refer to my husband's house as. You know, I'm up there most of the time. My clothes and a lot of my stuff is up there, but most of my furniture and other things are still here, and my business is still here because we're supposed to be building a studio up there for me so that I have some place to dye, while we're also working here to get my house ready to put on the market early next year. So we've been doing all of this kind of simultaneously. You know, we put in that that spot, we took down like all these big trees earlier this year up at the mountain house, to create a level pad kind of site where we had a 12 by 28 building delivered because we need a lot of storage space for various and sundry things. That was all documented through Instagram if you're interested in going back and looking at that. But, you know, we've been doing that. Plus, he's been doing a lot of work in my basement. And everything that we've been doing, like the scope of the projects has expanded exponentially, which if you guys are homeowners and have ever done projects like this, you probably know. This is what happens like when you're renovating or remodeling or building. Like, it is never as simple as it seems like it's going to be at first. So this has been going on. And in the meantime, though, I'm driving back and forth, like a 50-minute drive, you know, back and forth about 5 or 6 days a week, which I figured it out. I'm spending over $450 a month just in gas and tolls, which I realize there are people who drive a whole lot more than that for their jobs. And I totally get that, so I feel kind of weird complaining about it, except for the fact that I work for myself, and the whole point is I'm supposed to be working from home. And I am working from home, but I'm working from this home, but I'm living at that home. You know what I mean? So I have been doing this drive now for almost a year, because we got married last August. I've been doing this for almost a year, and it's getting old. It's really... yeah, I'm tired of the drive. As much as it's giving me tons and tons of podcast listening time and Audible listening time, I'm ready to not be making that drive that many days a week. I'd like to switch that ratio around and only be making it a couple days a week. So a few weeks ago, I talked to my husband and said, you know what? We need to find a plan B or C or something. I'm not sure what plan we're on, because he had made a comment to me one point in time about the fact, he's like, you know what, I could have you set up to be dyeing in our basement, back in the back of our basement, where the laundry area is and everything. He's like, I could have you set up to be dyeing down there inside of a weekend. And I'm like, I don't want to dye in the basement. Well, I don't want to D-I-E in the basement either, but that sounds bad. I don't want to D-Y-E in the basement. You know, I need light, I need this and that, and, you know, and he's like, fine, you know, it's just, this process is going to take a while. I think we had this conversation when I was lamenting about my frustration over how long everything was taking and how much more we're finding we need to do before we can get to this process, and how it's going to be next summer before I can put my house on the market and all this stuff. So I suggested a few weeks ago, I'm like, hey, remember when you said you could get me set up to dye in our basement in a weekend? And he's like, yeah, I can. I said, awesome. Why don't we do that? I said, as long as it's just temporary, because I don't want to think it's temporary and then 10 years later still be stuck in the basement. And he's like, no, it won't be. I'm like, okay, if we can do that, then we can maybe concentrate more on my house and getting everything done there that is necessary to put it on the market. And then I can be working up here, not having to drive back and forth as much, which will save, you know, tons of gas money and toll money and everything, which will help because I'm still paying for a house I'm not living in. That's part of my issue right now. It's like, this is expensive. So I said, you know, we could concentrate on stuff here, put off starting the actual studio construction up there because we have not started that yet. We had to get that building in to store a lot of stuff that was already being stored on the porch, the front porch, which is what is going to be walled in and turned into a room. So we're basically adding a room onto the house for my studio. I said, you know, we don't have to do that this year. We can wait and do that, start next spring on that if you want. Plus, it would also just slow down the expenses in general because all of this is, you know, costly. Anytime you're doing house stuff and renovating and building, and it costs money. So I said, you know, this would give us a nice bit of breathing space and I can survive down there, which honestly, you know what? When I think of a basement, I think of my basement. Although right now my basement's looking pretty good because he's done a lot of work. But his basement, the one up at the mountain house, is actually really nice. He did it over several years ago. It's very bright. There's only 2 windows, like high up windows in the back of the basement, but it lets in a lot of light. Everything's white. He's painted the walls white. He's got ceramic tile, white ceramic tile in his basement. I know that seems odd, but it brightens it up tremendously. So I think it's actually going to be a pretty good area for me to work in until we get my studio space done. So I'm very excited about that. And so that is going to be something that once this week is over, I told him I can't start transitioning yet. We did go out a couple weeks ago and we bought a stove, a range. So I've got a stove top with the oven, you know, a stove, a brand new stove, nicer than the one that I have here in my house actually. That's already down there and hooked up. I just bought a new laptop this last weekend. I'm not using it right now, but that was the other thing. I said, well, it's not just a matter of me moving all my dyeing stuff up here, but I have to be able to move everything, like business-oriented stuff up here, because it would not make sense for me to be dyeing up there and then carrying everything back here to, you know, take pictures and upload and everything. And right now I do all of that stuff as well as record my podcast at my desktop, which is where I'm sitting at right now. I said, so I'm going to have to like move my computer and everything up there, except my computer's kind of old and it's not wireless internet. And I'm saying, you know, you're going to need to like run a cable for the internet. And he's like, it would be easier to just buy a new computer. And so that is what I ended up doing. While Emma and I were shopping, we shopped for clothes and for a laptop for me. And so I have a brand new laptop that I'm in the process of getting set up with everything that I know I will need on it up there. So I'm very much looking forward to starting to do my podcasts from up at the mountain house. I have the perfect spot picked out. I think it'll be lovely, very beautiful light in that particular area. So you can look forward to that hopefully in the next few weeks. I'm not saying I won't ever podcast from here still, but I have to take a lot of stuff from here up there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I've got a lot of stuff to think through. And like right now, I've got some deadline stuff this week that I need to talk about. Oh, that was what I needed to remember to mention. I'll say it in a minute. Anyway, so yeah, but I just thought I'd let you know that this is a very exciting step. Even though it's not the full-on brand new studio step, it is a very, very happy, exciting midway step, like a transition step that's going to make life way better. And best of all, I can stop putting like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles on my car every month. Yeah, it'll be so nice to not have to make that drive. There's a reason I work from home. Like, I want to be home. I don't want to be in my car half the time. So anyway, so that's kind of big news. I'm very excited about it, and I'll tell you more as I know more. All right, let's get fully on into shop news now. I just wanted to mention that the pre-orders for the Holiday Countdown mini collections, today is the last day for those. I'll be closing those pre-orders. Actually, I'll be closing them tomorrow morning when I get up. So you may have a few bonus hours if you don't get it by midnight. But if you have been thinking about one, remember they're discounted 10% right now. And I will have one more week of pre-orders up at the very beginning of September, but those will not be discounted. So if you want to grab that 10% discount, now is the time to do it, and today's your last chance. So those are still up. The summertime knit and crochet along is still going on in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group. The July month, which is semi-solids, is coming to an end, so I will announce the winner for that next week. So August will be speckles or sock blanks. That's our last S. Actually, it's two S's piggybacking on each other. So if you, in August, you need to knit with any of my yarn that is speckled or with sock blanks. The sock blanks do not have to be speckled just as long as they're sock blanks. But if it's yarn, it has to be speckled. And somebody did ask if they have a one of my colorways that is a self-striping that has a speckled stripe in it, would that count? And yes, that absolutely counts. There has to be speckles present. It does not have to be a fully speckled skein, just as long as there are some speckles. So that is our August coming up. And I will be putting both some additional sock blanks and some speckled yarn in the shop this week for the shop update. So I wanted to offer you a chance to grab some yarn if you still need some for the knit along next month. And I'm offering a coupon code that will give you 15% off your entire order as long as you're ordering something that is either speckled or a sock blank along with the rest of your order. And that code would be SSS Speckle. So technically it's 4 S's, but SSS Speckle, S-P-E-C-K-L-E. I will try to remember to put that down here at the bottom of the screen, and it will be in the show notes. But that will give you 15% off your order starting Friday, this Friday at 6 p.m., which is when the shop update will go live, on through Sunday at 6 p.m. So basically a 48-hour period. You can go ahead and use that coupon code if you still need to grab something to use for the knit along in August. Okay, and if you have any other questions about the knit along or anything, all of the guidelines are written in the threads in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group about that. If you have questions that you can't find answers to there, feel free to PM me and I'll be happy to clarify anything for you. All right, so the shop update will be on Friday, July 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I basically have a lot of show leftovers that I'm going to be putting in the shop. I'm going to pause right now just so that I can go grab some things to show you. I'm not going to show you everything because there's just way too much, but I do have some key items that I want to show you, and then everything else I will be working to put everything up in preview mode in the shop the rest of today. So you can be looking forward to that. But hang on, I'll be right back. Okay. Let me show you some of the things that are going to be in the shop. Again, this is not exhaustive because there's a lot of other stuff that I'm not going to show you, but I thought I would take some time just to show you some of the highlights. I am going to whiz through the sock blanks that I have left from the show that I'm going to be putting in. I need to take a drink first, sorry. First, I've got some resist dyed blanks. So here's one. I just love doing resist blanks. They are so much fun. And they always turn out different. So here's a cool red one. This one is really lovely. I love how this one turned out. Kind of an under the sea looking theme. Okay, so those are the resist blanks. I don't think any more of these are resist. No, the rest of these are hand painted. I've got fireworks. And more fireworks. So there's one sparkly one non-sparkly fireworks blank. And then I've got some flower blanks. Yeah, one sparkly, one non-sparkly flower, big flower sock blanks. Okay, so those are the sock blanks that will be going in the shop. Additionally, I have some self-striping. I did do some of my favorite, well, not my favorite, but favorites of you guys, fall colorways, just because it's, you know, a midsummer show, so I wanted to have some fall colorways. So I did Barn Dance, which Barn Dance is a 3-striper, and the one stripe is, the center stripe is a variegated stripe. So this is Barn Dance. I've got some on Bounce and some on Bedazzled. And then I have After the Harvest Bright. This is the bright version. I've got some of these on Bounce. That's 6 stripes. And just so you know, the one that I said has the variegated stripe in it, it does not have speckles, so that would not be good to buy if you want it for the August knit along. Then I have some new colorways. I do new colorways when I'm dyeing for shows sometimes just because I kind of get in a zone and I get bored and I want to do something different. And that's how this one came about, which this is blowing out tremendously. It's much brighter in person. Let me see if I can get it to there. That's pretty close. It's actually a little brighter than that. And I'm calling this Holy Brightness Batman. Holy brightness, Batman. It looks so pastel back here. That's crazy because it is definitely not a pastel colorway at all. It is very, very bright. It's like highlighter bright is basically what this is. So there's some of those on Bounce. And then the long-awaited new Mountain House color. You know, I did Mountain House Winter last winter, obviously, and I had every intention of doing a Mountain House Spring because I would like to do one for each season. Spring, however, did not cooperate with me as far as getting photos of things, so I was never really able to put together a Mountain House Spring colorway this year. Okay, but summer has been much kinder, and so I do have a Mountain House Summer colorway for you. And I have it dyed up on 3 different bases: Bounce, Bedazzled, and Traveler. Traveler is the one that does not have the ball band on it. But here it is on Bounce. And again, the lighting is just not doing it any favors right now. But it'll look great in the pictures. I'm sorry, too, about my nails. I had a dyeing incident yesterday without gloves on, so my nails are all funky. They're not just dirty, like I actually do get washed. Anyway, so this is Mountain House Summer, and I have knit up a little sample just so you can see because it has 2 variegated stripes in it. So this is as far as I've gotten with the sample. So it has this very light green, which is representing the holly berries. Remember, in the winter one I had red for the holly berries, but in this time of year, the new holly berries are this very light pale green. The new pine cones on the trees are also that light pale green. It's very pretty. They're like a light powdery green. Then we've got this variegated stripe of orange and yellow, which is for the daylilies, which were a total surprise to me because I didn't even realize we had daylilies up there, so they were quite beautiful. And then we have the warm brown of the house, which that will be a consistent color throughout all of the Mountain House colorways because it's the Mountain House. And then we've got this brighter green that just represents everything else. You can't look anywhere without just seeing bright green foliage every place. The grass, the trees, the bushes, everything's just this vibrant, vital green. It's just so lovely. And then there's this yellow, and I have to look up the name of these flowers. They're a wildflower, and we have them growing every place. But I asked Bill what they were, and he wasn't sure. So I need to look them up, and I meant to do that before I recorded, and I forgot. But they are just, they're all over the place, and they're so pretty, and they're this bright yellow. And then lastly, this, which it may be just looking white on the screen, but in person you can see that it's white with a variegated pale, very pale, like orchid overwash just in certain areas. So there is white, but then there's some purple too. And that's for the Morning Glory vines that we have, the flowers on the Morning Glory. They are very light. It's funny because I have Morning Glory here at my house, but they are this very deep blue purple color, like very, very dark. The ones up there are not though. They are, you look at them and they look almost white, but if you get up close to them, you can see this pale purple blush on them. They're super pretty, and so I wanted to represent those in there because they bloom every morning. So yeah, so this is Mountain House Summer. It's just, I love how it turned out. It looks very summery to me, very light, very crisp, very fresh. So I'm very pleased with how this colorway turned out. Even though spring, we missed on spring, you know, just didn't get it. Maybe next year. Summer is a win. And autumn, I'm pretty sure is going to be awesome because it's the mountains in autumn. But again, there will be some on Bounce. and there will be some on Bedazzled, and there will be some on Traveler, which is the sport weight. And I plan to have more of these in like the next update after this as well. Okay, so that is the self-striping stuff I'm going to show you. In addition, what else? Okay, I showed you the fall colorways. Fiber. Fiber is the last thing I wanted to show you. I did a bunch of fiber for the show, I always do, but I wanted to show you 4 new colorways that are sort of a new fiber series that I'm playing with, and I really like them. And I'm calling it the Color Pop series because I'm doing it so that a lot of the fiber is being left just its natural color, and then just adding the pops of color to it. So this is one that has like a blue-green color pop. I let Emma name this one, and she named it Zombies in Springtime because, okay, there's the green in there and the springtime blues. So that's Zombies in Springtime, people. Name courtesy of my daughter. And this is on Polworth. And then also on Polworth, we have this one, which is super bright. And I'm calling this Funshine Sunshine, because it's just got these great, bright, fun, summery, sunshiny colors. And then on BFL and Tussa Silk blend, I have this one, which you can tell I was getting tired when I was naming things. Boopity Boo. It's a pink and purple combination with the natural white in there as well. And these are all 4-ounce braids. And then lastly, wow, that one, okay, took a dive. There is this one, which I'm calling Bright Caterpillar. It's got some brown and gold and that bright, bright green. And I love this one, so I kept one of these for me. And where did it go? I wanted to spin up a sample to show you because I know some people look at this and they're like, wow, look at that green. The cool thing about this Color Pop series is the fact that there is so much undyed fiber in there, and as you draft it out, it's very random dyed, so there's no repeating, you know, fiber throughout. It's random dyed, so you're going to hit all those colors and the white spots randomly as you're spinning. But no matter how you would split it, you're not going to get that same. Well, I mean, you would get the same if you were like spinning it fractally, you would. But the thing is, as you're drafting that fiber out, you're going to be drafting the undyed sections through. Basically, they're going to pull through the dyed sections, and that's going to mute your colors down. So this, okay, why did I undo it? I should have probably just left it as it was. You could see it a little bit better. Let me try that again. This is a sample of Bright Caterpillar. So, I mean, you can definitely still see that bright green in there, but it's not screaming in your face the way it is in the braid, because those colors pulled together and they helped mute each other. So you can still see all the individual colors. I mean, there's still areas where you just see the undyed and just the yellow and just the brown. But there's other places where they've pulled together and then I plied it. It's 2-plied, so there's like some intermittent barber pulling in there. So I'm really happy with it, and I just thought I would show you what it looks like plied up. And then I had to make myself stop spinning it because I really need to spin the other stuff. But there will be one braid of this color in there. So that is everything that, well, it's not everything, but those are the highlights that I want to show you for the shop. Everything will be up in preview mode, hopefully by tomorrow evening. That's my goal. And then the update, again, will be on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, and this was the thing that I kind of forgot and remembered in the shower and just remembered again now, is the Fiber Club, the Barber Pole Spinning Fiber Club. That is going to ship out by the end of this week. Everything is dyed. Half of it is still drying. So right now it just is all contingent upon when that gets dried up. The colors I'm very happy with. I hope everybody else likes too. They're a little bit of a deviation over what I normally do, so there's always a little trepidation for me on that, but I really like how it turned out, and I'm excited to get it out to you guys. So you can be looking forward to that being in the mail to you, hopefully by Friday. That's my goal, but definitely no later than Saturday. All right, that's everything I've got for you this week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And remember, if you want to grab one of those holiday countdown sets, today is the last day to do so and get the 10% discount. I'll be closing the pre-orders in the morning, and then you won't have a chance to pre-order again until the first week of September. And again, the update will be on Friday, the 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at fibernymph@gmail.com, or you can PM me on Ravelry. If you have if you have a Fibernymph Dyeworks question though, like a yarn, businessy, you know, an order related question or anything like that, it is always best to email me, because Rav messages and Instagram direct messages, those get lost in the fray. Email is good. So that's the best way to communicate with me in general, really, because I check it the most. So, all right, that's everything. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.